Welcome to TLC for the Soul podcast, where soul meets spirit. You have entered into sacred space. I'm your host, TAMI Chambers, and I'm here to help you shine. Now let's get going on this podcast journey. Hello, friends. Hello. Top of the morning to you. No, this doesn't even sound like my leprechaun. It's St. Patty's Day as I'm recording this. We could bring in a leprechaun and do leprechaun light language. But I want to I don't know, I'm getting a little excited here. So let me see. Before I do anything, welcome everyone in today. Welcome, welcome. We've got Bringers of the Light Sunday, and we've got the continuation of our story from the Rose of San Juan Capistrano. We're going to be diving into that channeled chapter that I brought forth this morning, right before this show. And then we're going to dive into the metaphors of the story. So I feel like this is like a moving meditation because I'm not even sitting down. I'm like up, I'm like moving, I'm like grooving. Energies, movement and grooving. Today's the 17th, I think, right? So 17 for me, when I see 17 or 717 a lot, that's like a code that it's like an angel number that, things are moving forward and moving ahead. So before we get into this any further, let me wrap us all in love light and light love, inviting in the guides who overlight TLC for the soul, Archangel Michael, Archangel Metatron, the Pleiadians, our friends from the Rose of San Juan Capistrano, spirit guides of Tessa Locke and Bringers of the Light. That's me, that's you, that's all of us as we're doing our good old sassy light work here on the planet right now. And I like these little Sunday mornings. It just helps uplift my spirits too and kind of get me motivated for the week ahead. The chapter that's coming in is just very interesting. I don't even know about the metaphors. The only thing that stood out to me when I brought in the title last week, was the chapter. This chapter is called Do I Know You, which is always the first thing that is said when two soulmates or divine counterparts meet in any of my books. So if you're new here, welcome. There's a lot going on at TLC for the Soul. Maybe a lot to take in at first. Links to everything I talk about are always in the show notes. But I do write books, I call them channeled fiction and nonfiction books. They just come via automatic writing. There's a process involved, but it's more about going into sacred space and inviting in the friends who have shown themselves to me that they want to work on spirit friends that want to work on a book with me. And then we embark on this journey together of excitement because I never know what's going to come next. And just channel these chapters one at a time and then bring them to you in this form. So just a few little tiny housekeeping things before we go into the story. One, the Rose of San Juan Capistrano, I think in the audiobook form, is up to chapter 16 on YouTube and on the podcast. There's a playlist for those on Spotify and YouTube. Elsewhere, you kind of have to do a little bit of maybe a search within the podcast to find the audiobooks. I'm working on various audiobooks at the same time. So you may be like, wow, there's all these drops of all these different audiobooks. And that's because I want to try and get out there in audiobook format what I've got going on. We've got a lot of books published. It's going to take me a while, but Moxie and Roses, the Thunder Rose collection, the first book in the Thunder Rose collection, the complete audiobook is already out there, and that's been out there for a while now. If you're interested in a spooky-ish story, even now here in the Northern Hemisphere where it's the middle of March, it's supposed to like spring break-ish time. About down South Texas, this was like spring break week. And it always did get I remember it always got a little cool. We would always go to the coast. We would go to like South Padre or Padre Island or Port Aransas because that was the thing to do. It would always get a little cooler somehow during this week of spring break. Well, up here in good old whatever this is called, Northern Plains up by Canada. It has gotten cold. So we had 60 degrees the other day. I was riding it down, hair flying, top down. I don't have a convertible. Stop. Sunroof open, windows down, 60 degrees, sunny, heading on my little 60-mile drive to town to go shopping. And today it is 20s. There's a little bit of snow on the ground. There's a -10 wind chill. And I'm like, what just happened to my happy spring life? So it may be that who knows where you are. If you're in the Southern Hemisphere, then you are getting ready for the autumn equinox this coming week. Those of us in the Northern Hemisphere for the spring equinox, whether it feels like spring or not. I think actually I looked at the planting guides for up here and I was like, when can I start throwing out some wildflower seeds or something into my yard? In this little dragon, I need to take a picture of it. Last year I started making this big, huge planterscape thing. And it is like a huge dragon, but it's got, I don't even know how many of those cinder block things, maybe like 50 or 60. And I lifted each one of those by hands and pulled a muscle in my arm because I got all dragon fire and thought I could do them all at once. And they're very, very heavy. I swear each one's probably like 10, 15 pounds. But they said that the frost zone or whatever for up here, like you have to wait to plant until starting later in April. And I'm like, oh God, so I still have prepare the soil. So we're preparing the soil now for what's to come. But today feels to me, even when I'm up here and it's almost spring, I'm like, oh, it feels like a Samhain day, like an autumn day. It's all dark and not dark, but it's like cloudy. Every now and then the sun does peek through. The trees still look all spooky. There's no leaves on the trees yet. I'm like, oh, I just want to sit down to watch Fright Night. One of my favorite movies, watch Fright Night, or some of my favorite Halloween card deck reviews. I don't have any Halloween decks. I have yet to find a really good Halloween card tarot deck. Right now, I am working with, I went to Barnes & Noble the other day, and I was like, they do have tarot and oracle decks there, but I was looking for the books. I was telling you guys about the Fairy Loot. They don't have Fairy Loot there. Fairy Loot's like the printer, but I was looking for books with like the beautiful sprayed edges, just as like a vision board example in my mind's eye of the way I want my books to look, because I am working on a special collector's edition of Kyanite Fairy Wing that's going to be a hardback with a special hardback only cover designed by me, and I want to learn I want to make the prototype and have the little sprayed edges on it, because somebody one day somewhere is going to be making my books like that for everybody. But right now I'm working with the Goddess of Love Tarot, a book and deck for embodying the erotic divine feminine. It's just a very interesting journey so far. I've only had it for a few days, but I can already see where it's starting to creep into my reality in a sense, because it is a little bit about working, like it says, with the erotic divine feminine and with sex magic and all of that. So if you're already triggered, whoops, might be turning her off, might be clicking off this podcast. There may be some stuff in my work to come having more to do with that, the erotic divine feminine and stuff. We'll see. I started a series a while back called Kink Cat, and I really wanted to do some more erotica type short stories and stuff, but I stopped because I was it's still what I was channeling, and at that time still wasn't where I wanted it to be. I wanted it to be very high vibe and very metaphorical and stuff, and so we'll see if I come back with that. So let's see, you've got audiobooks to listen to. You have if you want a comfy spooky day, then you can listen to the Moxie and Roses one. And then I've been putting out Powerball. That is a book that I have in progress. I am putting out Kyanite Fairy Wing in audiobook because that book is done, and that is our book of the month on Patreon. That's the book that you can read along, and if you want all the details on what we're doing there, you can just head over to the Patreon link and see. But we're using that book this month in all the Patreon groups in different ways. And then if you're in the Inner Sanctum, which is the highest tier right now in my Patreon, Then we have just started a Freedom Codes scavenger hunt. I dropped that in there today. It's an experiential, it's a scavenger hunt. It's very, very interesting having to work with like freedom codes, like the actual, if you know, you'll know what I'm talking about, freedom codes. So if you're interested in that scavenger hunt and you want to pop in and join in on that, like I said, you can check out all the details for Patreon at that link in the show notes. So we got a lot going on. Today's like lucky day, right? Luck of the Irish. And I can say that with conviction because the majority of my ancestry is Celtic, Ireland, Scotland, and the UK. I would say over 90% of my bloodline ancestry is there. And I know I've spent a lot of past lives up in those regions as well as the Hawaiian Islands and in their Lemurian state. So, it's just so good. All right, so we've got leprechauns here and dragons and fairies, and there was something else. So we've got the equinox midweek. That's, that state of balance where the day and the night it's of equal length, right? And what else is going on? Oh, and then on Sunday/Monday morning, very, very early Monday morning here for me, is that lunar eclipse in Libra. It is all about new relationships, upgraded relationships with yourself. And if you've been doing a whole bunch of work on yourself and you already feel like, well, I feel like I'm pretty upgraded, then those things are going to start showing up and manifesting in your 3D reality as new soulmates, new partnerships, new soul family members, just upgraded stuff. So, and I already am seeing kind of 3D manifestation of that with some new soul family members who they haven't just arrived. They've been in my field and in my 3D for a little while now, but I'm starting to take a more active role in their mentoring these people and so forth. So I'm really excited about that. James to Wizarding World. Yeah, we're doing Harry Potter stuff with them because they're younger and they relate more to that. So that's really fun. So I've got a little fun stuff happening there. All right, let me just check in. Is there anything else? I think we're ready to go with our chapter. So just a tiny recap of where we left off last week in case you didn't listen, or obviously it's not the only thing going on in your life. You might have forgotten. Rosalie and Calvin and Molly McBottoms. That's our house elf. Molly is our little inner garden fae. Catamancy is our cat wizard. They are the spirit friends of Rosalie and Calvin who live in Tessa Lock, our spirit city to Rockaway Point, which is in many of my Bring Us to the Light series books. We have over 15 books published now. I'm trying to get them out there slowly onto audiobook. So like I said, bear with me as these random chapters and things keep showing up. They just put them in playlists and then you can listen on the fly, or you can wait till the whole thing's there and listen as one big book. But there was a note that came in to Calvin and Rosalie. They had gone to Whistling Gulch Retreat. They've had some adventures at the Hidden Foot Tavern and then the Forest of the Forbidden Bears. They've had a little bit of a run-in with Cantakera, the fairy goddess lady who has some sort of little fairy portal along the marked path to the Hidden Foot Tavern. She tries to pull people in and have them do their bidding. And there's these bear people who work and who take care of the Hidden Foot Tavern. We don't know exactly what they are. We still don't know what they are, but they have found out, I think, about Mr. S, who's there doing his dastardly plan on behalf of Dark Orders, and he's been making this cream of mountain mushroom soup and filling it with all sorts of ill will and bile. Yeah, just like venomous, hating things. And he's been sending it to the Whistling Gulch Kitchens, and to the Hidden Foot Tavern actually got some. And so people started, that eat it, get, angry and upset with each other and argue. And then he's steadily increasing the dose of evilness into the soup to where now, we don't know what could happen. At least at the last time the guides shared it, they said there are things that these are things we can't even mention here because this body of work is very light. We're here to spread light, right? So they don't want me to go into like what could happen next with the next batch of cream of mountain mushroom soup. But the overall premise, as within all of our books, is Rosalie and Calvin were sent there unbeknownst to them by the Bringers of the Light headquarters. And High Core, who's kind of oversees our faction of the Bringers of the Light, had them go there to try to foil these dark plans. And I don't think they really realized that at first, but Calvin and Calvin, oh, they've become so close together. Now their names are becoming one. Calvin and Rosalie, I think, are the type that they don't really realize it's a divine soul mission and soul purpose. So this may be like you and someone, your partner, like you don't really realize yet quite the extent of your soul mission and soul purpose as the divine partners. But it's like when the clarion call comes, you kind of go, and then you just kind of use your intuition and stuff to guide you on what you need to do, what you're there for, what you might do, as opposed to like our other couple, Abigail and Dakar, who are very, very self-aware of what they're doing as bringers of the light agents and all that. Like they're much more into it. They meet, daily with High Core, and they have very detailed and advanced assignments that they go on and that they do. And some, are still secret even to us. So we don't know. But they are a little bit more engaged in the fact that they are very aware of what they're doing on their soul purpose and with their divine partnership. But at the end of last week, Molly and Greer and Catamancy comes to tell them about Meep, the little tree elf guy who showed him Mr. S and said, "Look at this guy, Mr. S, what he's doing. You've got to stop him." And Catamancy went back to tell Greer and Molly McBottoms, like, we've got to get the Rose of San Juan Capistrano ready. So in each of these Rose series books, there's a specific rose that has a certain purpose, an actual rose flower. It has a certain purpose. They're grown by Greer and Molly McBottoms in the little corner garden, in the little green room of Rosalie's spare bedroom. And they grow these roses, and they have special soul missions and soul purposes, these little roses. And so this one is a rose of inner power. The very first Rose series book was a different type of rose. It was a rose that brought Rosalie and Calvin together. But Rosalie and Calvin are there at the Whistling Gulch. They're kind of trying to figure out what's going on. Greer, Catamancy, and Molly kind of stowed away in the limo that brought them there and brought the Rose of San Juan Capistrano, or the Rose of SJC, as I'll refer to it sometimes. It's not such a lengthy tongue twister. It's there to do something. So they were getting it ready to go because a note had come in for Rosalie and Calvin that they weren't going to meet this anonymous note writer in the Forest of Forbidden Bears that night at 9 p.m. because it was too dangerous, the note said. And the note then advised them to come to the back door at the kitchens of the Hidden Foot Tavern, and all would be revealed, and they would find out what was going on, and maybe they could be of assistance. And so in the wings, the Rose of SJC is at its ready in case it needs to be of any help to Rosalie and Calvin on this strange little quest that they're on. So we are going to jump in now. And Do I Know You? And I was a little bit anxious. I'm like, oh, who's coming in? Because Do I Know You, like I said, is always when two divine counterparts, or whatever you want to call them, soulmates, twin flames, divine partnerships, whenever they meet for the first time, then there's this soul recognition between them. And so then we always get the question in my books of, do I know you? So when I saw the chapter come up last week, when I channeled in the chapter title, I was like a little anxious, like, oh gosh, who's coming in? And how does that relate to my 3D reality? And so let's just read this, and then if there's any metaphors we need to pull out, we will pull those out as we pick up with Chapter 18, Do I Know You? 8:45, and everyone was ready. Now, how to get the Rose of SJC down the trail to the Hidden Foot Tavern. The rose, plumped and prepped for journey, had been placed in its protective container, and the trio, Molly, Greer, and Catamancy, were waiting for a sign. They knew one was coming, and then if by magic, which of course it was, the sign showed up, a magical breeze blew in through the open patio door, and in flew the biggest crow they had ever seen. "I've been sent here to assist," the crow said, hiding his true self from them. "You seem so familiar," Molly McBottom said to the crow. "Do I know you?" The crow cawed a little wickedly, and with a glint in his eye said most wryly, "I don't know, do you?" And like that she was smitten. Molly, who'd lived her entire life in the little cottage garden inside Rosalie's spare bedroom, and in the outside patio garden many millennia before that, was gobsmacked. Something about this crow. "How did you find me? Us," she smiled. "No time for that now." The crow's eyes glinted in the dusky light of the room. "Get that rose on my back and then hop on. We've got to get going." Oh, he's British. Greer and Molly. Never know till these voices come out. Greer and Molly tied the Rose of SJC in its special container onto the crow's back as Catamancy kept watch. Rosalie and Calvin had already prepared themselves and were trekking along the marked path towards the Hidden Foot Tavern's kitchens. "And what should we call you?" Molly said, finishing the ties on the rose container. "Call me what you want," he said, flapping his wings, "but for goodness sake, get on and let's go." Molly thought for a moment as a distant memory flooded her heart. "I think I'll call you Orion." "No, how about Ben? Yes, I think Ben suits you just fine." And so Orion/Ben the Crow, Molly, Greer, and the Rose of SJC lifted flight out of the suite and through the open patio door with Catamancy flanking the group on foot. They actually made it to the Hidden Foot Tavern first, flying deftly over Rosalie and Calvin, who were none the wiser as the pair were trying to intuit what was to happen next. Orion/Ben landed very adeptly at the back door, and they positioned themselves so they could see and hear everything at the threshold. A few minutes later, Rosalie and Calvin emerged from the path precisely as the little clock tower at the Whistling Gulch Church struck 9 p.m. The door to the Hidden Foot Tavern kitchen creaked open. Rosalie held her breath. Calvin held a small can of pepper spray in his pocket. The Rose of SJC inhaled. Molly and Greer readied themselves. Catamancy yawned, and Orion/Ben looked at Molly from the corner of his eye. A bear person appeared with a small cap on his head. He smiled at Rosalie and Calvin. "Thank you for coming. I have something to show you," the bear person said, holding out his paw hand. And there in the middle of the furry paw was a heart. The heart was beating, it seemed, but just barely. "I found this last night. It's a sign of what's to come, but only if we can stop this madness," the bear said, handing the heart to Rosalie. "But what? How did you get this? What is this?" Rosalie said, taken aback by the heart in her hands. "This is how we will stop the darkness that has taken over the town," the bear person said. "I have a plan, but first I must tell you what I know." And so the Rose of SJC exhaled a little. Molly and Greer relaxed. Catamancy yawned again, and Orion/Ben gave Molly a wink. And Rosalie and Calvin stepped inside the Hidden Foot Tavern kitchen as Molly gently held the small beating heart in her palm. The love from the little heart made her feel warm and comforted inside as she and Calvin settled into a table set with the bear's beloved china. The bear person served honeysuckle tea and huckleberry scones as he proceeded to tell them the story of the forbidden bears and how they had come to be, their purpose, and how everyone in the room that night could help change the world. Oh, so good. Telling you. All right. I get emotional every time I channel a chapter. I'm like, oh, this is so good. All right. My guides know how to take me on these little rabbit trails. Rabbit trails of fun and magic. Okay, so the week ahead, let's just break this out a little bit. Hold on, let me look at something here. Yeah, let's just break this out a little bit. 8:45, everyone's ready. Everyone is ready. So we're in eclipse season right now. You may have been hearing maybe multiple times or through many confirmations that you're ready for the next leg of your journey, the next phase of what's to come. You may be in this slight little pause right now while you assess everything you've done so far. We get ready to kick things off again. In addition to the fact that on the equinox or right around there, we also move from Pisces season into Aries season. So out of water into fire. Oh, I like the sounds of that, right? I'm like, come on, let's just go already. So because Pisces, the last degrees of Pisces are in the first house of my chart, as are the first degrees of Aries. So I'm like, come on, let's just get this dang thing moving. Whatever it is, I need fire. I'm tired of reflecting on everything I've done so far, and I'm tired of thinking about my emotions and all that. I just want to go, I want to do something, I want something new, I want a new adventure. Come on. So, you are ready. If you're here listening to this, you're ready. You've done whatever work you need to do, whatever healing, everything that you've done. And we talked about this. I don't know what show we did it in now. I think it was the pick a card, the very long pick a card. Everything you've done over the past 7 years, or you may even feel it's longer. I'm like, everything's circular, right? It could be like the past 7 years. And then within that past 7 years, it could have been the last 18 years. And with that last 18 years, it could have been the last, 36 years. Oh, wait, I've been doing this my whole life, right? Then you kind of realize like, oh, really, I've been on this journey my entire life, unbeknownst to me. But over this last cycle, you've completed the work that you came here to complete in terms of healing yourself enough to be ready to welcome in what's to come next. This new to you new. Yeah, I think it's uncharted territory. I think it's something, somewhere, someone you haven't been with before or been through some experience you haven't been through before. And it's all part of this Libra lunar eclipse, along with the huge Aries total solar eclipse at the beginning of April. I am a little miffed about the Mercury retrograde kind of happening at the same time. I'm like, oh, what does that mean? Does that mean that, communication from people you're expecting to get communication from is like are we still waiting? I just don't know. I don't know, but there is this loving little Mercury retrograde is coming in at the beginning of April and lasting until about the actual retrograde itself until about, I think, like the third week of April. And the shadow, okay, if it's coming in the beginning of April, we may already start to begin to feel the shadow of that now. I have not looked up when the shadow period, it may have already started. And then that probably means the end of the shadow is probably, into the beginning of May. And it's like, oh, what is that all about? Does that mean I wait even longer? I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means for the new to you, now new, whatever stuff. Does that mean it starts now and then it kind of slows? Maybe it's coming in so fast that and hot and heavy with the Aries season that it needs a little bit of like putting the brakes on in April to just like slow down a little bit. Let's just hope that's what it is and not that we're still waiting. But maybe that's what it is. Maybe something comes in hot and heavy at the beginning of April the beginning of April, that was just flipped out of my mouth like a card flipping onto the table. Maybe something comes in hot and heavy at the beginning of April and needs to just be a little bit, slowed down a little bit. So take that as what you will. And since it's new to you, you may not even know what it is yet. There may just be something new that's meant for you on your path. Maybe even inkling of like what it's about. Like obviously you've been manifesting stuff, right? You know what you're manifesting. Maybe it's something new pops in unexpectedly to kind of get the ball rolling, and then the new to you new part of your life starts. What else? Yeah, because we have the fact that Greer, Molly, and catamancy. Oh no. Hold on. Uh-oh. There may be some lack of communication. Oh, my throat just seized up. Okay, people. Oh, can I pause this? Hold on. All right, and we pause that right at 3030. Yeah, I think that may have triggered some people that are supposed to be, maybe if there's any of you that are supposed to be communicating something, or maybe you have something you want to say to somebody. Wow. That was my divine masculine side of my throat too. The whole side of it just like seized up. Got I can't even explain it. Yeah. So if there's any divine masculine out there or divine masculine within, like that's an action taking energy, right? The masculine, then yeah, maybe blocks are being cleared in the throat chakra for this communication, whatever it's supposed to be, or this action items. Action you're supposed to be taking, because they say Molly, Greer, and catamancy knew that a sign was coming, and then if by magic one shows up and a magical breeze blows in, and then here is the biggest crow they had ever seen sent there to assist them. The crow said, hiding his true self from them, I've been sent here to assist. Well, in many of my books, the divine counterparts and any type of soulmate relationships, twin flames, whatever, start out as like usually some sort of like someone's in a masked form. Someone is a crow instead of a person when they should be a person. Maybe even Molly McBottoms herself is hiding out as a garden fae when really she's supposed to be out in the world, doing something much more than hiding out in the spare bedroom. Holy smokes. In Tamber and Jameson, Tamber's like this badass bringers of the light agent, and Jameson was like her hawk familiar, only because he was tired of being a man, and he was tired of like all the sucky relationships he'd been through, and he just didn't want to deal with the human world anymore. And so he asked High Court Bringers of the Light HQ if he could just become someone's familiar. And so he changed it into a hawk. He shapeshifted into a hawk, and he was assigned to Tamber. And he ended up realizing, like, Tamber's my person, even though Tamber is like some off-planet, being. She was an off-planet being. We still don't know, like, her true exact. What does she look like? Where are some people with some fan art? We need some fan art people to start drawing these people. We still don't know. But, even in that book, there was like, at some point he decides like, I can't take it anymore. I have to tell Tamber how I feel. And he goes back to Bringers of the Light headquarters, and he says, I don't want to be a hawk familiar anymore. I want to be a man. And they're like, well, of course, you're one of our best agents. And he shapeshifts back, and he goes to meet Tamber, and he passes her. He comes up to her. He was ready to like say all this stuff. And then Tamber's like, do I know you? And then it all starts from there. So the do I know you is very telling, but I do find it interesting that Orion/Ben's coming in as a crow. Molly already has got soul recognition with the you seem so familiar. That's how it all starts. Do I know you? And this crow, though, is not I like how it says he's hiding his true self from them, but he's got some very human traits. All the, wicked smiles and glints in his eye and winking and right away, she's like, oh, wow, that's all I needed. That rose on my back. And right away, he goes into, who knows where we don't even know where he came from. Right away, Orion / Ben, whoever he is. And one's a very cosmic name, right? Orion. It's like a constellation. It's like maybe you're a star seed from Orion, the Orion's belt. Orion's belt was like in Men in Black, the cat that had the little, the whole galaxy on his collar. There's a lot going on with our Orion. There is, I think in someone's card deck, there's an Archangel Orion that helps with making wishes come true. And then we get this very human name of Ben, like, okay, so which is it, right? Maybe it's both. Especially right now with the scavenger hunt that we're doing, the Freedom Code scavenger hunt we're doing in Patreon. There has been a lot about things being braided together, clues being braided together. So maybe things coming in pairs. So maybe there is something here about union, partnership, twin flame union, divine partnership, soulmates, whatever you call it, being braided together in pairs. Because instead of working with one book in the scavenger hunt, we are working with my book, but we've also brought in an outside book. We brought in a book that I'm reading and I'm listening to called Legend Born by Tracy Dion. And so we're braiding together. This is so interesting. This is a very deep metaphor. We're braiding together this outside book along with my book. And what we found is we did like an intuitive pull from the books. We flipped and picked a page and read from the Legend Born book. And then we flipped and picked a page and read from Kyanite Fairy Wing. And we got very much the same messages. So it's like a blending of two what would seem to be opposites, but they're very much alike. They seem to be opposites on the outside, but they're very much alike on the inside. So those kind of metaphors and signs have been showing up a lot lately. Things in pairs. And right away, this crow, Orion / Ben, gets right down to brass tacks with let's get on. We got a soul mission to do. It's like, where did he come from? Who is he? We have no clue. He's hiding himself. So we should surmise that he's not really a crow, right? He's not really a crow. He's there to help these guys with soul mission stuff. And right away they get to work. And then we get to I do want to touch on the heart here. So everyone's expecting like the worst when they get to the Hidden Foot Tavern. I mean, I was wondering, like, is it bear spray that Calvin's got in his pocket? It was like pepper spray. And I'm like, is pepper spray going to do anything to a bear? And it's like, well, we never really know the bears of the force of the forbidden bears and the bears that work at the Hidden Foot Tavern. We never really know because we always get bear person. Like, are they half bear, half person? Who are they, right? So he's got pepper spray, which to me, I guess is maybe more effective on a human than a bear. I don't know anything about working with bears. But I found that was interesting. And then the fact that he is just like a fuzzy, wuzzy little bear person. So cute. And he's got that little heart in his hand, that precious little heart that he found somewhere. And, that's so metaphorical, right? The heart's just slightly beating. It reminds me so much of Elf, like a movie I have to watch. Who doesn't? I don't know. Maybe there's somebody that don't watch Elf every holiday season, but it reminds me so much of that kind of vibe where, Ed Asner as Santa Claus is like, there's no more Christmas spirit. My sleigh can't fly. That's a common metaphor, right? And he's got that meter and, it's down, down, down. And then there comes, what's her name? Singing the song, Zoe. And she's singing the song and, raising everybody's spirits in my Freedom Code city, New York. It takes place in New York. We got big energetic ties there in terms of these freedom codes, and gets everybody's spirits up, 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 and then the sleigh flies. And that's what this little beating heart reminds me of. It's like just barely beating, but somehow we're going to use this heart, this metaphor for love, right, to foil the dark plans and help possibly change the world. So the bear person, serves them on their beloved china. They have this like ancestral china dishes and plates and stuff at the tavern, and he starts telling them about all about the forbidden bears, which who knows, I don't know yet. Maybe we'll go into that, and their purpose, and how everyone in the room that night is going to work together to help change the world. And I do think that's important, because it's not just humankind changing the world. Every being on the planet has to be uplifted and ascend to higher, is uplifting, is ascending to higher levels of consciousness and higher vibrations. It's not just us. And we shouldn't be so like big on ourselves and it's just the human race. There's other races and other kingdoms that have very vested interests in the planet's vibration and consciousness rising, and are doing what they can as well. And we should be supporting them. So this bear person, who knows what kingdom he's from? Maybe he's from one of the 9 worlds of the Yggdrasil or something. Who knows? Maybe he's from some kingdom we don't even realize is out there yet. Every time we turn around, it's like elves and fairies and trolls and the giants, and who knows what little niche. Maybe he's a niche. There's a niche kingdom out there of some little bear people. Like that reminds me of like the Ewoks, right? Like the Ewoks. And they're also trying to do their part. That is making me emotional. Everyone's just trying to do their part. That's why we came, right? That's why we're here. That's why every time I say like, man, I never want to come back here again. I'm so tired of these journeys. And then I look at the planet itself and I'm like, I just keep coming back for the planet. Even if human beings can't get their crap together and figure this out, I always keep coming back for the planet and the magic and what gifts it has to offer. That's part of the message. That's part of why we're doing what we're doing. So when you get down on like the human condition, the 3D world of humanity, and like, when are people ever going to figure this out? I think slowly, very slowly, they are. It may not be in my lifetime. Maybe it's the next generation. Those of us that have been keep coming back, we've been doing this for a while. But we're doing a lot of work now. And a lot of work that's been done is legacy work. Passing these things on generation to generation, which is part of why I've been gifted with a person to mentor and a person to apprentice. A person who's really, really excited about learning how to do this work. It's such a blessing. And, as a younger person, as a person like in their early 20s, who's really, really excited and really, really wants to help and wants to learn. That's who we are. We're here to do what we can, and then to pass it along and pass it on so that others can pass it on and pass it on. And maybe at some point we reach this equilibrium and we tip the scales to the other side, and the consciousness, as it always does, over millennia, like it said. Molly McBottoms has been around for a while. And things tip, and the planet, goes up again in consciousness. And maybe this time we can keep it up there. And we can, and who knows, maybe we don't. Maybe it's just meant to continue to cycle to higher levels of consciousness and then downgrade again into lower. I don't know. I do feel like, in a way, as being a teaching school that it is maybe at the most basic levels, a planet that will never really fully continue to go higher and higher and higher and become, like the Pleiadian, become
just a planet that is not dense. Because if not, then where are we going to learn these lessons? If it's just another utopian planet, then what's the point of coming here? I don't know. I sometimes have those feelings like, well, every so often, every many thousands of years, we have a big wipeout. We have a wipeout, and we start over fresh, and we start over fresh, and we start over fresh. And it's like we way back when we had very high vibrating high level societies, and then they were gone. And here we are, and then everything went down, and now we're coming back up again. So when I start to feel kind of down about what's going on, I'm like, you know what? Maybe that's just the nature of how things are here. And when we come here to serve and to spread the light and do what we can, the best that we can, pass it on, and everybody else just does the best that you can. And the planet's going to take care of itself. The planet is going to do what the planet needs to do. And if the planet is some cyclical in nature planet where it's like I have dark ages and I have enlightened ages, and I just do that over and over and over again, then that's what it is, right? And we just keep coming back because we love it here, no matter what the human condition is, whether it's the dark ages or the light ages, And soon, I think, if your karma is good enough, and it is a dark ages time, you don't have to come back. You're not forced to be here if you don't want to be. And you get that to make that choice to go somewhere else for a little while and sit that one out. All right. Well, enough ramblings. I hit 45:55 on the timer. Oh my goodness. I did not expect us to go that deep. But as always, just here to serve. Being just a humble servant, bringing the words out of my mouth. So I want to thank you all so much for joining me here. It sounds like it's a very powerful week ahead. A lot happening, and we will see you again soon somewhere. I don't know what our next show is going to be. I have not even thought about that yet. So I guess it's going to be a surprise. And if not, there's always an audiobook chapters dropping from somewhere from some book. So thank you yet again, friends, and we will see you all again soon. Take care. We'd like to thank our sponsor today, Crust Bakery, Rockaway Point's premier bake shop for your magical treats. This Halloween, add something special to your Halloween table and your Samhain spread with a magical bake from Abigail's Smile. Let crust beguile. Thank you so much for joining our show today.